Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do just a fun video where I get to count down my top 20 favorite planets in the Twilight Imperium galaxy. These aren't the best planets or the most lore-heavy planets. They're just my favorite, my personal favorite 20 out of the 130 planets that exist in Twilight Imperium currently. 130. There's 99 in 4th edition with Prophecy of Kings added in, and then there's another 31 that you can find throughout the lore or in other editions. There's a whole lot of planets, and each of these planets, with very few exceptions, have very interesting flavor text, and so I wanted to go through a couple of examples of my favorites. So, let's start it off with number 20. Now, number 20 is interesting. The reason it's so low is because it actually doesn't have flavor text, but it is the planet of Horizon, which, if I'm not mistaken, was found in 2nd edition. It might have been 1st edition, but I think it's 2nd edition. And Horizon, we know nothing about it, but the name always brings to mind, at least for me, that it is a very far distant planet on the edge of the galactic disk, and it's maybe even the furthest planet from the core. In fact, in my personal headcanon, it is the most remote planet in the galaxy, and it just overlooks the vast emptiness beyond the galaxy's borders. So, it has a very special place in my heart. Hopefully, we can get more information on it soon, but for right now, Horizon, number 20. Now, number 19, this is the only one where I really allowed in-game mechanics to sway my opinion, but Meer is such a nice planet to have in your slice because it's 4 influence, and it's just so nice to have, because often you can even get attachments on it if you're playing with Prophecy of Kings, and it can become a 6 influence slice, and we call it mini Mecatol because you can get 2 command counters off of it, and it's so nice to have that it had to make the list, even though the flavor text is fine. It's a hellish world, immolated in the inferno of its nearby sun, famed for the fiery majesty of its surface when viewed from the safety of its mini orbital stations. I think it's a cool bit of flavor text. I think it's a pretty unique idea for a planet, especially because this high influence mainly comes from the fact that influential people visit the planet on its orbital stations just to watch it get burned up, which is pretty cool. I like that. It kind of reminds me of that episode of Doctor Who when they're in an orbital station above the Earth before it gets consumed by the sun. But the main reason that that it made the top 20 is because it's just so nice to have in your slice. But let's move on to more lore-focused or just flavor-focused reasons. And the next one, number 18, is Thibba. Now, all flavor text that I'm going to be reading for this video, it all comes from either the 4th edition or Shattered Ascension, which is 3rd edition. I'm not sure if they edited any flavor text though, and I don't have 3rd edition to check, but all of the flavor text for Shattered Ascension, which I believe is a fan-made version of 3rd edition, all of that flavor text is online, so it was a really easy thing for me to find. So that's why I'm using Shattered Ascension. If anything is different or weird, sorry, but this is an informal video anyways. Alright, so Thibba. Why do I like it? The flavor text reads, burdened by overpopulation and low mineral content in the planetary crust, historically used as a staging world for deep space exploration and trade. I am a sucker for deep space exploration. I really love the idea of Thibba being just on the edge of nothing. If you're not noticing the pattern with it in Horizon, there are very similar reasons that they made the list. I really like the idea of it just being on the edge of deep space, and beyond it is complete unknown. I think that that's really cool. So that's why it made the list. Number 17 is Tempesta. This was a 3rd edition planet. The flavor text reads, although virtually uninhabitable, new research indicates that the frozen plasma above Tempesta's atmosphere contains the most potent fuel ever discovered. Another thing that I'm a sucker for is weird sci-fi concepts and weird sci-fi words. You're going to notice that a lot. And frozen plasma is oxymoronic because plasma is a very hot form of matter and then it's frozen. And I just think that that's really cool. It's a really cool idea that the atmosphere is frozen plasma, whatever the heck that is. So that's why Tempesta makes it. It also has really cool art in 3rd edition. So it made the list at number 17. Number 16 is Garbozia. Now, Dane has come out in the past and said that he really hates this name and a couple of the other names of some of the older planets. They don't sound sci-fi. They don't sound interesting. They're just, oh, this is literally a planet called Garbage Land, you know? So what he says, and this is my own headcanon as well, is that Garbozia is a nickname given to this planet. So we don't know its actual name, but everybody calls it Garbozia because it's so covered in trash. And the 3rd edition lore reads, the world of Garbozia used to serve as the Imperial dumping grounds. After years of festering, the organic compounds have recently become priceless. I really like the idea of this. I really like the idea of a dump planet that everything has just been festering and rotting for so long that it's actually become valuable because there's all sorts of exotic materials in it. It's really cool. Also, I'm pretty sure, though not positive, and I can't remember the source, somewhere the SAR mentioned Garbozia. Like, maybe it's in 3rd edition, or maybe it's some flavor text somewhere, but I'm pretty sure that there's a SAR captain who mentions Garbozia. Maybe it's Mentak, but I'm pretty sure it's the SAR. Alright, enough of that, enough of the garbage planet. Let's move on to 15, which is Velnor. Now this is the one that I'm kind of confused about because I have different flavor text, because I was able to find 3rd edition flavor text, 4th edition, and then Shattered Ascension. So I'm just going to read all 3, well, all 2, because the 3rd edition and the Shattered Ascension are very similar, but Shattered Ascension adds stuff. So 3rd edition, Shattered Ascension, it says, Velnor's famous Demon Glow crystals are the purest and most efficient fuel for Delta-grade laser cannons. Its rings consist mainly of the structural debris from spaceships. That's really cool. I really like the idea of just hulking spaceships forming the rings of a planet, because Velnor has been the site of so many different battles that just all sorts of spaceships are just floating out in these rings surrounding the planet. I really like that. Also, who doesn't like a good Demon Glow crystal? 4th edition lore reads, Barren world of windswept... Wow. Alright, this is... 4th edition lore reads, Barren world of windswept rock and thick, murky oceans. Lack of local life forms allow corporations to strip mine the surface and test kinetic weapons in orbit at the poles. Which I think is really cool. I like the idea that it's just this uninhabitable wasteland and people are just testing kinetic weapons on it. And I think it actually kind of works with 3rd edition. Generally, if 3rd and 4th edition contradict, 4th edition takes precedence. But in this case, I don't see any real need for contradiction. On the planet's surface, they mine for Demon Glow crystals, and then at the poles, they're using kinetic weapons to just test new awesome warfare technology. I think that makes sense. And I just really like the idea of this planet having... It feels like it has history. You know, it's got these rings made up of dead spaceships, and it's just barren and windswept, and people test weapons on it because there's nothing else to do with it. Alright, 14 is the one, the only Mecatol Rex. Once a splendid place, and now a sad, devastated wasteland. Only the radiation-shielded Mecatol City, the seat of the powerful Galactic Council, remains habitable. I mean, I don't really need to say much. I don't really need to say much about Mecatol Rex. It's the center of the galaxy, the capital of the Lazax Empire. It's Mecatol Rex. So, moving on. 13, Emelpar. I actually made an entire video about the L1 invasion of Emelpar. I'll link that up in the corner. But, needless to say, I really like Emelpar. I think it's got one of the most fleshed out pieces of lore dedicated to it. It's either that or Kalhadar, because Kalhadar, they discover the necrovirus there. But Emelpar takes the cake for me, just because I think it's cool to see the older lore and to see what it was exactly, what was envisioned when people thought about Twilight Imperium back in the olden times of, I think it was 2nd edition. It might be first. No, it is 1st edition. Back in 1st edition, what exactly was envisioned. And I really like Emelpar for that reason. Number 12 is Kamdorn. Now, the 4th edition flavor text reads, also called the Dream Sand, this is the least populated of the Hakan planets, but the center of Hakan mythology and religion. It is the only known source of starflowers. I really like the idea of the Hakan mysticism and religion. One of my favorite pieces of lore in the entire game is the back of the extra faction sheet in Rex, because it talks about the extra religion, and I think that's super interesting. Like, sci-fi religions, I really like Dune. I don't really consider it a sci-fi. I think of it more as like an evolutionary fiction. But I really like Dune because it focuses on the religious aspect of these super advanced societies, and this is one of the only references to these the religions that exist within the galaxy. So, Kamdorn, number 12. 11 is Crius. I mean, it had to make the list. Even though the Ghosts of Crius are definitely everyone's favorite faction, because they look really cool, and they have really cool theme, and they have neat mechanics. I get that. I'm a bit tired of everybody liking the Ghosts of Crius. I personally, my favorite is the Mahacht. But, very well, everybody can like the Ghosts of Crius, but one cannot deny that the Crius are very cool, and they have a very cool home world, and that's why it's number 11. Because trapped between matter and void lies the realm of Crius. Made of trapped light and radioactive gas, this realm hosts the most peculiar forms of life. It's a realm made of light. It's so cool and neat and out there, and that's the thing that Twilight Imperium really brings that other sci-fi settings kind of fall short on, is these wacky, odd forms of alien life. So Crius makes the list just because it's a beautiful planet, it's an interesting planet, and mechanically, I really enjoy it. Number 10 is another home system. It's Mordai 2. I'm a sucker for the art on Mordai 2. Like, the whole skeletal structure of the planet, and it's been mined to its bones by the virulent necro. It's reinforced by the graviton energy beams that barely keep the world from collapsing in on itself. I just think that's really cool. The necrovirus has cannibalized its own home planet in order to feed its armies and to begin its galactic expansion. It's a really beautiful piece of art. It's a very interesting planet, and I'm also a huge stan of the necrovirus, so there's another good reason to put it on this list at number 10. Number 9, inspired by Seleucus Secundus, is Hope's End. Again, we get back to Dune. I think that Dune is probably the biggest influence on Twilight Imperium, and I'll probably do a video breaking down all of the parallels and homages that I see in the Twilight Imperium setting. But this is kind of the most obvious one in my opinion. Hope's End, it's the famous training ground of the elite Lazak's troops. Only the strong survive here. And it's kind of obvious to me that it's just the training ground of the Sardaukar, but brought into a Twilight Imperium setting. So that's why I say it's inspired by Seleucus Secundus. But in Prophecy of Kings, the flavor text changed. It's now buried in the Ichal Nebula. The Lazaks use the toxic wildlife and fierce aurora storms to train their troops. Even now, volatile weapon caches remain hidden beneath its sands. And then there's also the Imperial Arms Vault, which is the legendary ability of this planet. And that flavor text reads, "Buried deep beneath the surface, the lost vaults contain a legion's worth of weapons." I think that's really cool. I really love the art for Hope's End. I really love the theme. I love that it's probably inspired by Dune. It's just a really, really cool planet. And it's definitely, when I saw that it was going to be included in Prophecy of Kings, my excitement for the expansion jumped like 3 points. It was, I'm a huge Hope's End fan. Number 8, Quann. This one, it made the list for 2 reasons. One, because it's super important to the lore, and the entire Quann incident and everything basically started at Quann. The trade dispute at Quann kickstarted the Twilight Wars. The other reason that it made the list, and this is kind of why it's so high, is because my table has this weird meta where Mecatol Rex is not the most important planet. The Wormhole Nexus is not the most important planet. Quann is the most important planet, and it is fought over so often. And I have one buddy, and he plays as if Quann is his second home system, and he refuses to give it up, and he refuses to let anyone else have it. He'll pick his slice just because Quann is in that slice. So it has a personal meaningfulness to me, besides just being the location of the beta wormhole and being a cool planet. It's the Quann. It's a great planet. All right. Number 7, another 3rd edition planet is Lesab, which the flavor text reads, once devoid of life, now 72.5% of Lesab's surface is covered in a quasi-sentient fungus, the unexpected result of experiments with terraforming. I think that's really a neat idea. A quasi-sentient fungus. What does that even mean? What is a quasi-sentient fungus? I just love it when there's little weird things thrown into the flavor text. And that holds true on the next entry on this list, which is number 6, Vega Major, which has a macro squid infestation. So in Prophecy of Kings, the flavor text reads, most of the population resides in orbital habitats, supporting mining operations in the planetary ring. Surface colonization is limited due to oceanic macro squid infestations. So they have a giant squid problem. And this is the flavor text that inspired me to make this list, because the flavor text on these planets is just so interesting and fun. I really, really enjoy it. And I think that Prophecy of Kings really upped the ante on that, because there's little things that are thrown in all over the place that are just so interesting. The 3rd edition lore for Vega Major is that the surface is sparsely populated due to its hostile climate shifts, but its rings are home to many harvest stations that process valuable floating ore. So it's cool, but it's not as cool as macro squid infestation. Just saying. Number 5 is Sem-Lore. First off, it's a great planet to have. I really like Sem-Lore, but that's not the reason it made this list, and it's not the reason that it got the number 5 spot. That reason is because it is the home of the minor race of the Sem-Lore. And ever since I started playing Twilight Imperium, I have wanted more information on the Sem-Lore. I love the name, I love the idea of minor races throughout the galaxy, and this is the only one, besides I think the Miashan, who are named. And the Miashan, they just live on the Naalu homeworld with the Naalu, so they don't even really count. This is an independent minor race, the Sem-Lore, and I really like that idea, and I want to see more of it. So the flavor text reads, though lush and prosperous, Sem-Lore has never been held by a major power, and therefore is rumored to be cursed. That's the 3rd edition lore, and I think that is awesome. I love the slightly more mystical aspects of this setting, and I really like the idea that the galaxy just decided, yeah, that's a cursed planet. But the 4th edition lore got rid of the curse, which I think that was a mistake, but that's just me. Still the home of the Sem-Lore, but now it's heavily damaged in the Twilight Wars. Rusting warship hulks litter the Rad Deserts, making it a war memorial and a salvage site. The Rad Deserts, these hulking warship hulks, these rusting warship hulks, it's all just super cool and thematic, and I really, really enjoy that. So that's why Sem-Lore is number 5, mainly because of the Sem-Lore, but also because it's a cursed planet, and who doesn't like a cursed planet? Alright, number 4 is Industrex. This is another one that I think that Industrex is probably a nickname, especially because the lore reads that Industrex was once solely supported by the Lazax military complex. So I think that it's likely Industrex is a top secret planet, or at least it was back in the Imperium's age. So Industrex was top secret, no one was even allowed to know about it, but people did, and they didn't have a name for it, so they nicknamed it Industrex because it was supported by the military-industrial complex of the galaxy. During the Twilight Wars, it was devastated, but it has since become self-sufficient. I think this planet, and maybe, well, we'll do that at the end. At the end of this list, I'll go back over and I'll say which ones I want to see the most in future expansions, because I think that'd be interesting. I mean, obviously all of them if they're not already in a, yeah. Never mind. I won't even do that because I just want to see all of them. These are all really cool planets. I really want to see Industrex. I really want to see Garbozia. I want to see Horizon. I want to see Tempesta. I want to see all the planets that haven't made it into the game yet be brought back in whatever the next expansion is called, or it's going to be great. All right, moving on to number 3. We're getting to the big guns now. Number 3 is Ixth. Now, as a very, very fervent fan of the Mahact, obviously Ixth had to make this list. It's a legendary planet. It's the stuff of legend. It's not a legendary planet in game, but it's the stuff of legend, and it's described as a dry, dead world of black volcanic mountains and molten seas of lava. The black necropolis of Eordol Gorgos on the Plateau Imperia is the only evidence of civilization. I think giving the Mahact a hell world as their home, I think that's just phenomenal. Ixth was the promised planet, but it turns out it's actually a hell world, and just phenomenal flavor, awesome lore. I really enjoy it. And also, the art for this planet is so good. It's just so good. All right, moving on. We gotta finish this. This is already a very long video. Number 2, another reason that I wanted to do this list, because this planet, when I was researching this game to buy it, I saw the flavor text for this planet, and it's part of the reason that I got super into the lore, which is Tren'lak, the second homeworld of the Sardak. So it has the same lore in both 3rd and 4th edition. It's icy and desolate. Other than the ferocious snow dracs and the rare ice moon flowers, life is restricted to the Nor boom towers and ice mines. Nor boom towers is another one of those weird sci-fi words. Like, you have no idea what a boom tower even is. Watch it be like a totally common mining term that I just didn't look up. But in my mind, it's this weird construct. Like, what the heck is a boom tower? I don't know. It's just a boom tower. It's a sci-fi thing. And I really like that. It paints an interesting and alien picture in your mind. Again, if a boom tower is just like a regular thing, whatever. I don't even want to know. Don't tell me if a boom tower is a normal thing. I want it to be a weird sci-fi thing. Alright, it's time. Number 1, what could possibly beat the boom towers of Tren'lak or the volcanic oceans of Ixth? Well, it's a planet that has not appeared in-game ever, but it was mentioned, I believe, in 1st edition in Distant Suns, and that is Gamma Eridius. And why is Gamma Eridius why is it number 1 on my list? Because it is the home of the psychic frogs. That's right, Twilight Imperium canonically has psychic frogs living on a planet called Gamma Eridius. So, obviously, that had to be number 1. I want to see this planet so badly. And Dane, please make it a legendary planet. Please make it a phenomenally busted legendary planet. Like, I have given it a lot of thought as to what I would make the psychic frogs of Gamma Eridius's power in Twilight Imperium if it was a legendary planet. I think it should just be like, exhaust this card to look at the next 2 objectives and put them back in any order. You know, something whack and weird, but also powerful, I think that would be amazing. And it should be a legendary planet, and it should be green and orange, and maybe some pink, and it should... Please, Dane, if you would like me to design Gamma Eridius, I will do it. I will commission art for this planet. Alright. So, that is my list of my top 20 favorite planets of the 130 planets in Twilight Imperium. I had to pick 20. It was difficult. There's a whole lot that deserve honorable mentions. I mean, Abaddon is awesome. So is Loki. There's so many. I mean, Malice didn't even make this list, and I love Malice. But this is it. That's my top 20. I love them. They're phenomenal planets. Next time that you're playing through Twilight Imperium, make sure you read your flavor text, because the flavor text is so cool and interesting. That's all I have to say. Alright, so thank you for watching. If you watched this far, I don't know why. This was a weird video, but I wanted to make it. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.